Senator Mark Kelly, a former Navy combat pilot and astronaut, pressed one of the Pentagon's newest nominees on a question that cuts to the core of our national defense. Can America still build ships? While China commands over 5,000 merchant vessels and dominates more than half of global shipbuilding, the United States, the nation that once built the arsenal of democracy, is down to roughly 80 flagged ocean-going merchant ships. And the nominees' responses? Let's just say they were carefully evasive.
Mr. Ditliff, then, just to follow up on Senator Slotkin and the chairman, I think you would be able to say just yes or no if there's a credible threat. That's not classified information. I mean, saying what the threat is would be the classified part of a response. So could you just say, if you know of a credible threat, easy answer, yes or no?
Senator, today I can't say anything in this particular forum, but if confirmed, I look forward to engaging with you and making sure that we're operating in a transparent manner with the committee.
All right, thank you. Mr. Birdwell, different subject. The decline of domestic shipbuilding and the industrial base that supports that, it's not just an economic concern for our country. This is a national security issue, a significant one. In a potential contingency with a near-peer adversary competitor like China, our ability to sustain sea lift across a 5,000-mile ocean, repair battle damage, support forward-deployed naval forces is going to depend on the strength of our U.S. shipyards. It's going to depend on our suppliers. And it's going to depend on having a robust commercial U.S.-flagged fleet. The President's Maritime Action Plan and my bipartisan Ships for America Act recognizes the urgency of reversing this trend through a whole-of-government approach. We have to revitalize domestic maritime building here at home. The theory of the case behind both of these initiatives, the Maritime Action Plan and my legislation, is that rebuilding our maritime industrial base cannot rely exclusively on the Navy. We need a competitive commercial market that supports robust supply chains if we want to be able to deliver critical capability to the Navy and have critical Navy programs that are on time and on budget. So, Mr. Birdwell, do you agree that the Navy would benefit from more commercial competition in the maritime industry?
I've not made an evaluation of a competitive role between the Navy and our commercial. I do agree with you that we need a more robust organizational industrial base across the services, specifically the Navy and shipbuilding, but also additional capability commercially. I could give you an anecdotal issue specifically related to Texas, but we need both lanes robust simultaneously, in my view.
So you don't think there's synergy between having a robust commercial sector and a robust military shipbuilding? What I'm getting at is those supply chains for Navy ships. If you look at things like pumps and valves and piping and engines, the supply chain for the naval vessels is very similar to the supply chain for the commercial vessels.
Yes, sir. Senator, you would need whatever increases we have in the force structure in the Navy, you would need to have a parallel increase in the service support ships that would support those. But
I'm not talking about just the support ships. I'm talking about, so we have about 80 U.S.-flagged ocean-going merchant ships. China has over 5,000. They have more than 50% of the shipbuilding capacity worldwide. What I'm getting at here is by revitalizing the commercial shipbuilding sector, it helps us build more Navy ships because you have more robust supply chains. So if confirmed as Assistant Secretary of Defense for Sustainment, how would you align the department's sustainment strategy with the broader maritime initiatives to ensure that we have the industrial capacity that the Navy depends upon for its sea lift?
Senator, I want to make sure that the industrial base, both commercial and organic, that I get to be a champion, particularly for the organic, work with my counterparts in industrial-based policy for the commercial side to ensure that both of those capabilities are growing robustly, to ensure that we meet the strategic needs that you've addressed in your question.
Okay. Yeah, there is a strategic need for commercial sea lift. I mean, that's without question. But I do want to just, make it clear again that that actually helps us build the amphibs, build the aircraft carriers, the destroyers, the frigates, the submarines that we need for our national defense. So I hope you'll work with us here on this committee. I've got strong legislation. It's bipartisan. It touches every aspect of the maritime industry, so we can flag more U.S. ships with U.S. crews built in U.S. shipyards with U.S. suppliers. That's what I think we need, not only to revitalize the commercial sector, but at the same time, we get the added benefit of having a bigger industrial base for shipbuilding across the country. So I look forward to working with you on it.
Senator, if confirmed, I look forward to working with you in the committee on that very topic.
Senator Birdwell, I think Senator Kelly has made a profound point here. This is not the first time this has been discussed among this committee, but he's on to something that, that might give us the quantum leap that is vitally needed to do what needs to be done. So thank you, Senator Kelly. Senator Kaine, you have finally lived long enough to be recognized. It's your turn.
That's a good allusion to a special day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
Senator Mark Kelly sat in that hearing room and laid out, with surgical precision, one of the most critical national security vulnerabilities the United States faces today. And what did he get in return? Bureaucratic non-answers from a nominee who, by his own admission, hasn't even evaluated the relationship between commercial and military shipbuilding. The man being nominated to oversee defense sustainment for the most powerful military in human history hasn't thought about whether commercial shipbuilding helps the Navy. The United States of America, the country that built over 2,700 Liberty ships during World War II in just 4 years, today operates roughly 80 U.S.-flagged ocean-going merchant vessels. China, over 5,000. China controls more than half of the world's shipbuilding capacity. And we're not talking about fishing boats. We're talking about the strategic sea lift capability that would determine whether the United States can sustain a prolonged military operation across the Pacific, or whether we simply can't. Senator Kelly made a point that frankly shouldn't even be controversial. The supply chains that build commercial ships, the pumps, the valves, the piping, the engines are fundamentally the same supply chains that build destroyers, frigates, aircraft carriers, and submarines. A thriving commercial shipbuilding sector doesn't compete with the Navy. It feeds the Navy. It strengthens the industrial ecosystem that allows us to build and maintain the fleet we need. This is not a radical idea. This is basic industrial strategy that every serious maritime nation on Earth already understands, except, apparently, the current nominees being put forward for the Pentagon. And here's where the politics of this moment really matter. Senator Kelly's Ships for America Act is bipartisan legislation. It's not a Democratic wish list. It has support across the aisle. It addresses every layer of the problem: shipyards, suppliers, crews, and the commercial fleet itself. And yet, the nominee sitting across from him couldn't even articulate a clear vision for how to align the Department of Defense's sustainment strategy with these broader maritime initiatives. And let's be honest about the bigger picture here. This is part of a pattern we've seen with this administration's approach to the Pentagon, nominating individuals based on loyalty rather than expertise, hollowing out institutional knowledge, and treating confirmation hearings as something to survive rather than an opportunity to demonstrate competence. The chairman of the committee himself acknowledged that Senator Kelly was onto something profound, something that could represent a quantum leap for American shipbuilding. But quantum leaps require leadership that is ready to act, not nominees who hedge every answer as if they're afraid of their own shadow, or more likely, afraid of contradicting the political winds blowing from the White House. Every day that the United States fails to invest in its own commercial and naval shipbuilding capacity is a day that the balance of maritime power shifts further in China's favor. Senator Kelly understands that. The bipartisan coalition behind the Ships for America Act understands that. The question is whether the people being placed in positions of power at the Department of Defense understand it or even care.